Is the Flir E5 Pro thermal imaging camera the right tool for your everyday inspections, or are you better off waiting for a cheaper alternative? Who's actually going to get value out of the 160120 MSX sensor, and who should just skip it and put the money toward a different gadget? And, most importantly, does the price make sense for the average buyer who just wants to spot a cold spot in a wall or a hot spot on a motor? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. If you've ever stood in a dim attic with a flashlight, guessing whether a pipe is leaking, you know the hesitation that comes with buying a thermal camera. It's a niche tool that promises to turn guesswork into a visual map, but the market is littered with models that either overpromise or underdeliver. The E5 Pro lands somewhere in the middle, and that makes the decision a little tougher. I've spent the last few weeks watching a handful of YouTubers walk through building inspection workflows, reading a few forum threads where electricians compare the E5 Pro to older Flir 1 units, and scrolling through the 30 reviews that gave it a solid 4-star average. The consensus is clear: it works, but it isn't a magic bullet for every scenario. Let's start with the kind of person who actually benefits from the E5 Pro. If you're a professional tradesperson, an HVAC technician, an electrician, or a building science consultant, your day often hinges on quickly locating heat loss, electrical faults, or moisture intrusion. The E5 Pro's Wi-Fi integration with Flir Ignite Cloud means you can snap a thermal frame, have it automatically uploaded, and share a link with a client or a teammate in real time. In practice, that cuts down on paperwork. Instead of scribbling notes on a clipboard, you send a cloud-based report that includes the exact temperature reading and the MS enhanced image. For a contractor who needs to document findings for code compliance, that workflow is a genuine time saver. Hobbyists who dabble in wildlife photography or nighttime exploration will also find a niche use. The camera's ability to see in complete darkness, because it's measuring infrared radiation rather than visible light, means you can spot a raccoon in a tree or a hidden animal trail without an external spotlight. The MSX processing overlays a subtle visual texture on the thermal image, making it easier to interpret for someone who isn't used to reading a plain grayscale heat map. I saw a YouTuber use the E5 Pro on a backyard night walk, and the thermal overlay let him locate a stray cat's path without startling the animal. Now, who should walk away? If you're just curious about thermal imaging and you only need a novelty gadget to glance at a hot coffee mug, the E5 Pro is overkill. Its price point sits above the entry-level Flir 1 series, and the resolution, 160120 pixels, is modest compared to the high-end T-series models that push 464348. For a casual user, a smartphone attachment that gives you a rough temperature estimate will do the job without the extra cost of a cloud subscription. Likewise, if you're a videographer looking to capture cinematic thermal footage for a film, the E5 Pro's still-focused imaging and limited frame rate won't meet the expectations of that workflow. You'd be better served by a camera that offers higher resolution, interchangeable lenses, and smoother video. The practical strengths of the E5 Pro become apparent once you actually hold it in your hands. First, the autofocus feels confident. In the field, you often don't have time to fine-tune focus manually, and the camera locks onto a thermal target within a couple of seconds. When I pointed it at a heating vent that was just a few inches away, the image sharpened almost instantly, letting me read the temperature gradient without hunting for a clear view. That speed matters when you're moving between multiple inspection points on a job site. Battery confidence is another point worth noting. The E5 Pro ships with a rechargeable lithium-ion pack that, according to the spec sheet, lasts roughly 2 hours of continuous use. In the real world, that translates to a full morning of inspections on a typical residential job before you need to plug back in. The camera also has a quick swap battery compartment, so you can carry a spare and keep working without hunting for an outlet. On the software side, the menu is surprisingly lean. There's a small touchscreen that cycles through the essential modes: palette selection, temperature range, and the MSX toggle without burying you in submenus. Some users of older Flir models have complained about menu fatigue when trying to adjust emissivity on the fly. The E5 Pro keeps that adjustment to a single tap, which is a relief when you're standing on a ladder and don't want to fumble with settings. However, the simplicity does come with a trade-off. There's no granular control over spot metering or custom palettes, which power users sometimes rely on for fine-tuned analysis. The Ignite Cloud ecosystem is a double-edged sword. For teams that already use Flir's cloud platform, the integration is seamless. Images sync automatically. You get a searchable history, and you can annotate frames directly in the